satin. One love will turn your skin. The love is right. Let them have their time. And I have this notion, let's keep these wheels in motion. In motion. For what I did not know. Did you think I would let it go? Oh no. And in time, yes, I'll think it's absurd, but until then you'll leave your words. Play on, play on. Now it's time to defend your lies, the lies you've been feeding me all this time. And will you reoffend? Oh, darling. You say that you are innocent, but your words, they seem irrelevant, but still play on. Now it's time to defend your lies, the lies you've been feeding me all this time. And will you reoffend? Oh, darling. Oh, you have reached your lover's end. No way will we make pretend like we something to fight for. Oh. We had nothing to fight for. You were never the one to believe in hostilities, but you still forced the worst upon me. Upon me. All you wanted was love, but that was never enough. No, never enough. 'Cause you were chasing your dreams, now you can't redeem yourself. 'Cause you were chasing your dreams, now you can't redeem yourself. Disregarding your name, your smell is all that remains. They say you're an SLUT, but that doesn't sit well with me. It doesn't sit well with me. I remembered what you'd say. We're all looking to be alone. And somehow, someday, we'll find what we're looking for. Till then, you'll still be a boy. Don't tell me who I have become.
Good evening, race fans. It's Pirate here from Black Flag Racing TV, and I bring you something very special here for Race Asylum this evening. It is Race Asylum versus Apex Hunter Racing. This is their TVT Take 2, and I tell you what, the settings tonight are brutal. It's going to be a very, very difficult challenge for both teams. We've got some great drivers out there this evening, and we will run you through exactly how it's going to work. So both teams have picked a track and a car and a combo and a settings and everything else, and we're going to do those races back to back. Essentially 45-minute races, 25 laps for the first race at Watkins Glen, and then with that's followed up with a 23 lapper at Spa. Shall we go through the full settings, shall we? I think we shall. We'll go through the lobby in a minute and see who's here and who are the movers and the shakers. So we start at Watkins Glen. This is the Apex choice. Any GR3 car, Apex have gone for the GTR Nismo GT3 2018, while Race Asylum have gone for that M6 GT3 Sprint BMW. Two good choice of cars actually for Watkins Glen. BMW is a pretty strong car around here, but don't count out that Nismo. It's very, very quick. There are two races. I said the first one is 25 laps. They picked the car and track combo. Now for this first race, the Apex Hunter Racing Choice, any GR3 car at Watkins Glen, it's the full Watkins Glen track. Awesome, awesome circuit. Unchanged pretty much since it was built. But very, very cool, just outside New York. It's BOP with brake balance allowed, and they've gone for the time will be evening. Now, time multiplier is ×3, so it's not going to get too dark too quickly. Tyre wear ×1, fuel depletion times 2. 6 litres per second refueling rate. Now, there are only racing soft and racing mediums available, but the racing mediums are mandatory and must be used for a minimum of 8 laps. So you do have to kind of think about your pit stop, whether you just run the bare minimum 8 laps on those mediums, or whether you run 2 complete stints. Entirely up to each driver how they do that, but that's how it's going to work. Qualifying will be 5 minutes, which should start in about 5 minutes time, and it will be 25 racing laps here at Watkins Glen. Both teams are starting with a rolling start. The grid order is straight from qualifying, none of this reverse grid palaver. Slipstream will be real, damage will be on, but only light mechanical damage. Initial fuel, starting with a fuel tank at 75% for AHR. So that means you are going to have to think about when you come in, whether you start on the softs, run your 75% fuel down, leaving yourself 8 laps on the mediums. Now, I haven't had a chance to run it under these settings, so I don't know how the tyres last. I don't know. If I did my research, I wouldn't be the lovable oaf that you have come to know and love. Brake balance is allowed, nothing else. We know about tyre wear and track settings, etc., etc. All of the penalty settings are pretty much off. Shortcut is weak. The only things that are on are flag rules and the pit line cutting. But the brutal pit line cutting penalty, which here is an absolute bloody nightmare, because the car wants to throw you over that line on the way out the pits if you're not keeping your eyes open. So there we have it. No limit, and AHR got for no limit on all the settings. We'll go through the settings for Spa in the interval in between the two. But shall we have a little look through the grid and see who we've got this evening? I think that sounds like a plan. Right, so running for the Race Asylum team, we've got Blue Racer Nick. Very, very quick is Nick. And you can catch him in action again tomorrow in the first IRO event, the Bolex 6 Hours of Daytona, where I'll be joining you for that final stint. Do come and check it out tomorrow. That's on the IRO, I was going to say Facebook page, but it's not. It's on the YouTube channel. Gecko Racer is there for RA today, as is Evo. Evo, very, very fast. Slugsy, Deering and Kaza. Running for Ray's there, of course, but Ray's there just holding up the lobby for us all. And running for AHR, we've got James, who I understand is incredibly good. Now, he's running in the M6 as well. So actually, it looks like... That's interesting, actually, because I was under the impression the two teams were running their own, all the same choice of car. But it looks like that a couple of the AHR drivers have chosen to go with that M6, whereas the rest of them have gone for GTR. It does say free choice on GR3, so you would expect that free choice means completely free choice. All of RA have gone for the M6. But James and Dan, who are both pretty quick, have gone for the M6 there. We've got Carl Howell. He's gone for the GTR. Bob's your uncle. He's not, but he is my kid's uncle, strangely. He's running in the GTR Nismo. We've got slide rules in that GTR as well. Another M6 for the guys at AHR. That's, I'm going to call him Orford. Sporford. I hate when people have weird names. They do just fuck with me, I think. Satnav AI, also in that M6. Just a couple actually running in the GTR. Interesting. It'd be good to see what sort of pace those guys can get out of the GTR. Now, I know the GTR can be quite abrasive on tyres on some racetracks, so maybe that could be a deciding factor. But we've got qualifying starting in a couple of minutes. So let's talk a little bit about this racetrack. We will get to actually. Shall we have a little look at who we've got on chat? Holy hell, it is busy. Zeus's beard, it is busy. How you going, everybody? Governor Ost, Nay brother, Lil Nicky, Ray, of course, Governor, Cars. Oh my God, there's so many of you. Jack Belfast, Bap. I believe you're racing IRA tomorrow, aren't you? Look forward to seeing you there. Fun Police. The Fun Police is always out when I'm around. Usually what happens. How How you doing, guys? Good. Hello. I will try and check in with the chat as often as I possibly can. I might not bother. Rockzilla, how you doing? I might not. Depends what mood I'm in. Whether I'm feeling like I'm being social or I want people to. Well, I just want to watch the world burn, basically. To be fair, talking of watching the world burn, I've had an allergy to some antibiotics I'm on right, and my entire body is covered in hives, and I'm itching like a mofo. So I do actually want to watch the world burn. Right, so qualifying is about to begin, and there's nothing better than watching it from the outset. So let's jump across now for a bit of quali, shall we? Who's going to blink first? That's the big question. Who wants to get out there from the outset? We want to get all that turned off. Do apologise for the noise in the background. All my family are getting ready to go to a birthday party, 16th birthday party. I have absolutely no interest in watching a load of 16-year-olds get absolutely shit-faced and puke up on their shoes, in all fairness. But there we go. Right, I want to have a look at these liveries because I know that RA have got some awesome liveries. And this is the offering on that M6. And it is a thing of beauty. I do like the colouring for RA anyway. That kind of... it's not really orange, it's kind of copper and black, isn't it? It's not orange and black, it's copper and black. And it is really cool. I might have to speak to them about maybe chucking in a couple of liveries for us. What I say that our own in-house livery guy, Slipstream, is freaking awesome. Well, no, that's looking pretty darn good. That's, of course, Evo, with the first car out on track. We're doing on board on his first hot lap as well, shall we? Let's do that. We can talk about the racetrack a little bit. That's the BMW for AHR. We're looking at Dan FN. Trying to keep it there. It's got Nürburgring on the side. They're not doing Nürburgring today. I'm not very good with my thumb, you see. Right, shall we go on board with Evo for a hot lap? Because he's about to start it. So, Watkins Glen International in New York. What can I tell you about Watkins Glen? It's been around since the late 1950s, early 1960s. It did actually run the Formula One Grand Prix for a little while, although they stopped doing it because it's not that sort of racetrack, really. It's not really conducive to that kind of open-seater racing, I don't think. I think there are better options available, well, certainly with the Americas. It is 3.4 miles, 5.2 kilometres. And that includes this inner loop section we'll see soon. So basically, from the start, you've got your right hand, and then you're blasting up the hill at full pelt. There's a few kinks, a few turns here and there, but you're not slowing down for any of them. Then you get your first big braking zone, which is into this inner loop chicane. You take it in fourth gear, pretty much. It's a little drop and a lift. He does pick up a penalty there for track limits, but we'll continue on anyway. Then you swoop round. This is where the track will change. If you're doing the short course, it disappears off straight on there, and you don't do this section. This section is called the boot because you've got the heel and the toe and all of that kind of thing. And it was added quite late on to the race course to change it up a little bit. There's your dreaded penalty line. This is where you'll see the car slow down to serve that penalty. Will we see anyone rushing on through? No, he's got a nice big gap. That's good. Left himself a nice big gap. You've got this right-hand end. This is a tricky section of the racetrack as you come into Sector 3. You've got 3 big braking zones that really set you up for your following lap. Nice, tight, hugging the apex there. You can go nice and wide on the way out, but you want to make sure you don't clip that wall. It can really affect you here. Again, not too wide. You're going to find yourself drifting over onto that runoff area and picking up one of those dreaded penalties under the go bowling sign. And that is your first lap on the board. And the numbers on the board are, that's a 1:45.0. He did get a penalty though, so it's not really going to mean much. Slugsy with the first proper hot lap. Immediately beaten by Gecko Racer. So Gecko Racer on pole. And James, they told me he was quick. He is quick. That's a very, very good 1:43.5. 7/100th of a second quicker than Gecko Racer. So at the moment, James for AHR is on pole, joined on that front row by Gecko Racer. Just 7/100th of a second to separate those two. A tenth between Gecko Racer and Blue Racer. So the front 2 RA in that front 3 with Dan joining Blue on row 2. Row 3 is Slugsy with Deering. Satnav and Evo are on row 4. Slide Rules and Car Hal on row 5. Orford and Nick row 6. Didn't like Nick's put in a solid time. It's a 2:18.0 thus far. Kaza still needs to set a decent time. He's got a red time from serving a penalty. He's got another penalty as well. And there's not long left to get a hot lap in. It's only 5 minutes qualifying. Bob's your uncle is still on his out lap. That's my nephew saying what? He's a fucking idiot. Because he knows I'm not talking to him. He knows I'm talking to you. But he was dropped on his head a lot as a baby because he's got massive ears.
Bob's actually my dad now. Oh, I hope he's not my uncle.
Well, you never know. Apparently, Mum gets about a bit. So James is still on pole with a 1:43.5. Is he quicker this time out? I didn't see the sector time, but I can tell you now that he's not on pole anymore because Evo's just put in a 1:43.1. 3:33. 3.5 tenths of a second quicker. That's a solid lap for pole, knocking James down to second position. He couldn't improve on his time either. So he's on that front row, but couldn't improve and get pole. Dan and Gecko Racer are on row 2. It is Blue Racer and Slugsy on row 3. Deering and Satnav are on row 4. Slide Rules with Kaza on row 5. Orford with Nick. I say Nick was going to be on one of the final rows, but he puts himself on that front row in the last knockings of qualifying. What an absolute stonking lap from him. Absolutely stonking. Got to be happy with that, haven't you? I would be. There we go. Obviously, we can't see the thingies now. But, yeah, good start from Evo and Nick. That's a front row lockout for Race Asylum, which is a great start to this team versus team. James and Dan taking up row 2. Gecko Racer and Blue Racer on row 3. It's Slugsy and Deering on row 4. Satnav, Car Hal on row 5. Slide Rules and Kaza on row 6. And row 7 is Orford and Bob's your uncle. And there's not much separating them, to be fair. There's only a couple of seconds separating the entire field, which is pretty darn good. So we're just waiting for the race to begin. Remember, it is mandatory. So there's two required tyres, which are the mediums and the softs. The mediums must be used for 8 racing laps. It'll be interesting to see who decides to start on those medium tyres, or whether they all start on the softs and run that 75% of fuel down a little bit before they have to pit stop. It's really annoying, right, when you're trying to do a broadcast and people are standing right behind you having a conversation, especially when they're leaving the house. There we go. Yeah, so it is 8 laps minimum on those racing mediums. For me, I think I would start on the mediums and get them out of the way, and then you know you've only got the softs to run, and it gives you I suppose if you're on the front row, you want to kind of get yourself off up the road a little bit. But I think if you're midfield, starting on the mediums is an absolute nailed on good strategy and a good way to go. So it looks like everyone's ready to go, and we will be racing at 25 laps of the brilliant Watkins Glen in New York. Pretty much the M6 looking very, very strong. The highest running GTR was down in 10th with Car Hal, and Slide Rule just behind him in 11th. So the M6 very, very dominant here, and I did say at the beginning that the BMW is pretty strong here. So looking forward to a fantastic 25 laps of racing, and we will check out the chat very, very shortly. It is a rolling start. That will prevent any craziness into turn 1. We hate it when everyone piles on top of each other into turn 1. So we should see a pretty relatively easy start to the race. And by the end of lap 1, people will start to close up the gaps as necessary. So Evo will lead them out and across the line to start this race. 25 laps of Watkins Glen. RA leading the charge thus far, and we are away. Evo and Nick with a great start. Already Nick closing on the back of Evo before they even get to turn 1. James and Dan will want to try and stick with those front two, not let those two BMWs pull away from them. They want to stick with them and try and make an opportunity to pass early. There's not that many places to make really, really easy overtakes here at Watkins Glen. It's quite a tight circuit with pretty much one line all the way through. So you're going to have to rely on either a mistake or a little bit of guile in one of the corners, particularly in the first sector. Do you know what? This lot have been fucking leaving the house for about 10 minutes, right? They're just standing at the door making wanker sound at me and staring at the back of my head. My family are basically a big bunch of cunts, and I wish they'd fuck off. No worries. Right, so Evo still does lead the way. Nick in second with James running in third. This is pretty much how we qualified. No changes, I don't think, at the back there either. Although it looks like Orford's dropped back behind Bob's your uncle, starting on those medium tyres. We'll have a look actually and see who started on what tyre compounds. So it is Evo on those mediums, Nick as well, James, Dan, Gecko, Blue. It looks to me that all of them, yeah, everybody, look at that. Every single driver has started on those medium tyres. Just goes to show that sometimes I do actually know what I'm talking about, despite the fact that I'm making it up at least 90% of the time. Evo making a little bit of a gap now from his teammate, just 0.7 of a second, and that's allowing James to close on the back of Nick. Nick will want to keep him behind him. I mean, if anything, because it's a team versus team event, you do want to help your teammates out as much as possible. So if Nick can't, and there's a big mistake. Who was that? That was Nick. I was going to say Nick was going to try and hold him up. Can we see what happened to him? Something went horribly wrong there, and we can see that he's holding off very well, holding James off, and he just gets the back end of that BMW, just steps out on him when he gets onto that rumble strip, and that is the one downside to this BMW, is that if you get it slightly wrong, you are absolutely punished, and the pace of this lobby means that Nick is already 5.6 seconds back at the back of the pack. So first big change. Evo leads the way from James now up into second, Dan up into third. Gecko Racer all over the back of him at the moment, though, all over the back of that M6. The M6 is proving to be the much more dominant car here, and Gecko is looking for a way through. The fuel is 75%. It's going to deplete relatively quickly. Fastest lap at the moment is with Evo, that's 49.6, which on those medium tyres is not too shabby at all. And this is where we saw Nick come a cropper last time. You've just got to be so careful on these curbs. The back end of that BMW loves to step out at the best of times. But on the curbs here at Watkins Glen, it can be more so. And it looks at the moment like Gecko Racer, who looks to be trying to close on the back of Dan, currently going purple. Is it still going to be purple when he crosses the line? One more corner and we will find out if he can close that gap and put in the fastest lap so far of the race. Across the line he goes. That's a personal best because James does a 1:44.7. Bear in mind that is on the medium compound tyre. What a phenomenal lap from him to try and close down on Evo. Right, shall we catch up with some chat business because I'm well behind on talking to you guys. He's not slow at all, little Nicky. You can see he's putting in some significant pace at the moment, and but the M6 is absolutely dominating it. Damage is on low, or the repairable kind, as I like to refer to it. One thing I didn't know, I will say with the BMW, we did an endurance event around here a few months ago now. I can't remember what it was. It was a few months ago. And we were toying with the idea of using the M6, but it was that propensity for the M6 to go incredibly quick or try and kill you that got us to change our mind on it. Because it is a great car around Watkins Glen, but there are the occasional corner when it just decides it no longer wants you to live. So, interesting choice that a lot of people have gone for it. Clearly they feel that they can tame that beast. Now, James is looking very, very racy at the moment. Evo is still keeping him at bay. Let's have a look. How's Nick getting on? Has he closed that gap? Good evening, Jazz. You're not that late. We're only on lap 3. Do give that like button an absolute smash. Share it everywhere. And then when you finish, jump over to Black Flag Racing TV and like all the shizzle on there as well. And go. And if your neighbours and your friends are not on social media, go to their house, knock on their door, and take their phone out of their hand, and then and subscribe them to the channel and make them watch. Like in the old days. So Nick has closed the gap, 2.5 seconds to Orford. He's got a lot of work to do if he wants to move back up through the field. The pace is very, very hot. Separated at the moment, the entire field separated by just 14.5 seconds. And Nick does just put in the fastest lap of the race. Yeah, it's going to be... I think you're right, Baz. I think the biggest issue is going to be getting past Satnav, Slide Rules, Bob, Orford, those guys, Carhal. They're not going to make it easy for him. I think once he gets to the back of Kazza, Blue Racer, Deering, they're going to be a little bit more forgiving and potentially, not necessarily move over, but give him that opportunity to move through. The problem is it's such a difficult racetrack to overtake. There's very few parts of this track where you can just make that little dive. You get some good slipstream after turn 1 as you head up towards the inner loop before you get into the boot, but because it's not straight, you don't really get that wonderful run out where you can kind of slip up alongside and chuck a little sneaky. James is still sticking with Evo. They are starting just to edge away now. Dan FN, I wonder what the FN stands for. No, he's still looking really, really good for Race Asylum. I'm supposed to be impartial, but I'm not. I'm doing this on Race Asylum's channel for my friends at Race Asylum. So I'm going to be about as impartial as a not impartial thing. James picking up that half-second penalty. That's good news for his teammate Dan. That's great news for Evo, but it's not very good news for the Apex Hunter Racing team, because it does mean that Evo's going to be able to just edge out of that slipstream range and give himself a little bit of breathing room when this penalty gets served. Looking down the field, any other battles going on? Well, Gecko Racer is starting to close on the back of Dan. It's still closing on the back of Dan, but not quite close enough to make a move just yet. You're kind of relying at Watkins Glen on the car in front getting under pressure and making a mistake. You're right, no, absolutely that will hurt James. We're going to see how he'll be serving that soon, won't he? Yeah, it's just round here, so we'll see just how much time it costs him. So, what the gap is there, 0.6 of a second, 8, 9, 1.2, 1.3. It's brutal. That's cost him a second. That's cost him a second, that half-second penalty. Absolutely brutal. But yes, consistency. I do talk about it a lot because I think pace is one thing. Pace is really, really important when you're racing. Of course it is. But I think consistency can be more important. And I'll tell you for what. Because, there are so many guys out there that are super, super, super quick and can chuck in absolutely blistering one lap times. But they'll do it for 3 or 4 laps and then they'll crash the car and then they'll come charging through the field again. The problem with that, of course, is that if you've got somebody who is slightly slower but not crashing, they're going to beat you 9 times out of 10 because they're staying on the road, they're not damaging their car, they're not picking up penalties, they're picking their lines, they're going around in that consistency. No, absolutely. And I felt, because look, any of you guys that have raced with me know that I am super crazy slow. I'm essentially I'm like a pace car, except I have no pace. I'm like a not pace car. And I generally, I'm lucky enough that at Black Flag I race with some really, really great drivers. But I generally float around at the back when we're all racing together, if I race at all. But what I've found is that the guys that are kind of in and around me that have got that faster one lap pace, that I've found that I can, by being consistent, nick a place or two. And look, I'm never going to be super duper quick. I'm never going to be chucking in A+ lap times. But instead of trying to go faster, which is where I've been making a mistake, what I've tried to do now is not crash. And I found that by not crashing and not making mistakes, that I'm actually gaining more positions that way. So consistency absolutely makes a massive difference. And I think that's the beauty of having, you've got qualifying and you've got a race. In qualifying, absolutely one lap pace matters. But in the race, you've got to be able to manage the pace to an extent, not go your fastest every time, not try and eke out those extra few tenths every single corner, but find a consistent rhythm which you can replicate lap after lap after lap. We can see at the moment Evo is doing very much that. 44-2, 44-2, 44-2. That's the kind of rhythm you want to kind of find. Hello, Huli, or Hulo. Let it not be said that I am not a child. 144.2 for James, so he has matched Evo's pace. There or thereabouts, of course. Dan, 44.7s. Again, very consistent in those 44.7s. Has put a 44.4 on the board, but sticking with that kind of consistent pace. About half a second slower than the front runners at the moment. Why am I using... I've got a keyboard in front of me, and I'm using my bloody control to scroll through the drivers. And the amount I moaned about not having keyboard controls when GT7 came out as well. Gecko Racer. He is... he was in the 44.5s, dropped out to those 44.8s. It's going to be difficult running around behind Dan for so long. He's 1.2 seconds behind, so he's lost a little bit of time to the AHR guy ahead of him. Still looking good for Race Asylum, though, of course. First and fourth, and fifth, and sixth, and seventh, and eighth. There's Slugsy. He's got Gecko Racer 3 seconds up the road. He's got Deering for some company, though. The Irish eyes are smiling as Deering follows his teammate Slugsy around the track. What is the significance with RA and ERA, guys? I don't know. Can one of you fill me in? Is it like Elite Race Asylum? Or something along those lines? Nick, let's have a look at Nick, shall we? James. So he's done his 8 laps and in he goes. Are we going to see a load of them diving in now, or just James? So Nick he's navigated his way past Satnav, who's had, looks like he's had a little problem, Satnav. 49.1 on that last lap. Orford with a 47.8, 46.6. James now down there, he's behind Nick again. So where's Nick gone? There he is, he's in 10th. He's up to 10th. He's made his way past slide rules. So he's into the top 10. Of course, there are some pit stops to be done. Esport. Thank you very much. So 8 laps was what was needed on those tyres. Now, wasn't that the end of lap 7, and not the beginning of lap 8? That was 7. You're absolutely right, Ray. I'm looking at the thing, it says lap 8. So I had a little thing I was going to put up going pit window open, but no, he's now, unless he's planning on running mediums later in the race, which would be the sort of thing you do if you often lick windows and smash your own forehead off of a wall for no apparent reason. He's cocked up there, I think. So Evo does lead the way, 3.9 seconds clear as it stands. Now James has been into the pits. And that's a little bit of a worry for AHR. And I'm sure that somebody somewhere in AHR Towers is screaming in James's ear, "It was 7, you fool! You have to go and do another lap on the medium tyres." In comes Evo at the end of lap 8. That's your 8 laps done. Dan is in. Gecko is in. Slugsy, he is in. And Deering, and Blue, and Kaza, maybe? Kaza is in. Carhal, Bob's your uncle. Nick, is he coming in? Abso-freaking-lutely. Slide rules. He is in. He slides into his pit box. Orford stays out. As does Sat Nav AI. And they've got a little battle going on between them, those two. Where is James? He's there. He's coming in again. So is he coming in again to change back onto the media ears? So James, big trouble. He's had to put on the medium tyres again. He's going to go and run those now for... Well, this is the question. He's lost a lot of time already, and now he's put those tyres back on. Now, do you run just one lap, and then come back in again and put the softs on? Or do you cut your losses? I mean, for me, I think if I make that mistake, I stay out on the softs for a bit, find myself a little bit of rhythm, find myself a little track position, and maybe dive into pits later on and run a couple of laps towards the end on the mediums. The question is, now he might go all the way round and straight back into the pits, and I think that is going to cost him an absolute nightmare amount of time. He's already 45 seconds off the lead. Bear in mind, when he went into the pits, he was only 1.2 seconds behind the leader. 20 seconds behind slide rules. Right, but where's everyone else? Penalty, 3-second penalty for Kaza. Someone went across the white line when they came at the pits. And that'll be Kaza. That is going to cost him an absolute age. You could literally boil an egg with the amount of time that he's lost doing that. Satnav Ali still yet to pit, as is Orford. There is Satnav Ali. He's into the pits. I don't know what I say. Satnav Ali. It's Satnav AI. Satnav Ali. It's like when you get, like if you want to go and buy a TomTom, like on the sly, like a stolen TomTom, you just nip down Satnav Ali. Right, so Evo does regain the lead of this race. He's got Orford 5/10 behind him. But let's face it, Orford's going to go into the pits and disappear off further down the order. So we're looking at Dan. Dan now is the last great white hope for AHR. He is 4.3 seconds off that lead as it starts. Entering the pits is a bit of a nightmare at Watkins Glen, but I actually find it's leaving the pits. I don't know about you guys, but I find when I leave the pits, the car wants to go left before it's allowed to. And you kind of have to keep your wits about you. But, you know, it is a nightmare entry as well. If you come in too hot, you are going to make a mistake. So, Dan's got some work to do. 4.4 seconds is the gap to Evo. And he's got Gecko Racer right there. We know that Gecko Racer has been absolutely all over the back of Dan. Now, the problem, of course, now for Dan is that he hasn't got his teammate just ahead of him. And he's and the target now is a speck in the distant future. Right, Nick. Where is Nick? Where's he gone? There he is. He's inside the top 10 again. He's made it back into the top 10. His fastest lap thus far is a 44.3. He's now on the soft compound tyre, so expect to see him putting in some blistery times. Evo with a 43.7. There, finally, that's the final pit stop of the race. And that was, there he is, Orford into the pits. He quite often goes in there. Boom, boom. Right, so Evo from Dan from Gecko Racer. Dan just started to edge away from Gecko Racer. He won't want to see that. He'll want to stick with him. Slugsy 4.9 back. With Deering. Oh, Danny boy. It's not racial stereotyping, is it? I mean, technically, like I'm kind of quarter Irish. To be sure. And I like Guinness. So awful justification. Right, so Deering is steering his car behind a Slugsy. Quite a good battle going on here, actually. This is the battle currently for fourth, essentially. Fourth, fifth. Yes, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh here. You've got Slugsy at the head of that pile there, and looking back, that's a nice little train. Almost, it's one more than the human centipede of cars, all vying for fourth place. One mistake in there, and it could be, a disaster for whoever makes the mistake. Now, at the moment, Carl Hal is surrounded by RA, like the last good-looking girl outside a nightclub full of dudes. Kind of stranded there, surrounded by the lechy blokes of RA. Sorry, guys, I didn't mean to refer to you as lechy blokes that are preying on drunk women outside nightclubs. But Carl Howe is certainly in there alone at the moment as Blue Racer edging ever closer to the back of that AHR motor car. Down in 8th, Bob's Your Uncle in the GTR. Looking back over his shoulder, that is Nick, now up to 9th place. So, and he's got a penalty. He's got a 1 second penalty. It's not going all his way today. He's putting in fastest laps, 1:43.3. But he's not having the greatest of races thus far. Of course, we've still got one more race to go. That'll be at Spa. And I'm sure in those GR2 2016 cars, we've got a very, very different race up our sleeves. Or our sleeves, up their sleeves for that. So Nick's got this 1 second penalty to serve. That's going to hamper his charge after Bob's Your Uncle. So he's going to have to wait a few more laps before he's going to be able to close up on him. That will, of course, allow Kazza to close that 2.9 second gap. I only have dad jokes, Governor, because I am a dad and I don't have any other jokes. Well, no, to be fair, I have dad jokes and I have jokes that would absolutely get me cancelled. Yeah, I have told such jokes before on YouTube, and yeah, I should. They're the sort of things you keep to your family barbecue and your personal WhatsApp groups. Those kind of jokes, not to the public. Very, very dark. Some of the stuff in my head, I can tell you that for nothing. Right, slide rules. Well, he doesn't rule. He's all right. I'm joking. 1.6 seconds. The gap to Kazza. Then we've got a bit of a gap. It's Satnav AI. No, you're not getting a cancel joke. Absolutely not. Getting a cancel joke. It's not happening. Absolutely not happening. I've just come off another Facebook ban. I don't want a YouTube ban. To be fair, I'll come off of it. It wasn't a Facebook ban. I wasn't allowed to post for 24 hours. Which is quite good for me because I've actually gone... funnily enough, actually, talking of bans, I've gone 18 months without a lengthy social media ban. I regularly, over the course of 2021, I was banned for 30 days 7 times. 2020 and 2021, I was banned for 30 days 7 times over that period. It was quite interesting. But I'm being a much better boy now and behaving myself and not saying things that sometimes need to be said. Righty-ho. James is way down the order. He's back on those racing soft tyres. As we can see. Did I just turn it off? Just turn it back on. He's on those racing soft tyres. He's got a lot of work to do. Just to catch up to his teammates, Spot 1993 Orford, and Satnav AI, or Satnav Ali, if you want to buy a cheap TomTom. Oh, no, I'm not being boring. I'm being cautious. Yeah. No, I'm quite happy to share them now and again, but not today. Right. Anyway, James, he's got a lot of work to do. He's got three teammates ahead of him, but they are some way up the road. He's a minute now behind the leaders. Naturally, if he doesn't pick his socks up and start chucking in some quick laps, although he has been doing that, he might find that he will be seeing Evo again. But it might be for the wrong reasons, with Evo coming up behind him, and not in a happy finishing way, but in a coming round behind him. Fanar Ost, Fanar, you've never seen James at the back. Maybe if you ask him really nicely and buy him some dinner. Evo is still leading the way and now starting to assert a little bit of dominance. 5.5 Great British seconds is the lead, and Evo is now the fastest man on the racetrack with 1:43.1. Are we going to see a sub 1:43 lap? Is there a 1:42.8 or 9 in these cars with low fuel? I think it's certainly possible. Certainly the way that Evo's driving. I think at this stage you just got to keep it nice and settled and don't over push the car, don't overdrive. You don't want to go the way of Nick and spin out your BMW and find yourself have to fight your way through the field. Dan is the top AHR driver at the moment. He has started now to just get a bit of a gap on Gecko Racer, just to take that pressure off. And my God, you can abuse the track limits on that corner. All of the car over the track limits and no penalties. So awesome there. But it is weak thingy bob penalties. So Dan at the moment is flying the flag for AHR and keeping Gecko Racer at bay. Going to be a bit of a lonely race for Gecko if he can't stick on the back of Dan. At the moment, the view on board for him looks a little bit like that's what I wanted. I wanted that over the bonnet view because it's really cool. Excuse me, I didn't mean to burp down the microphone at you. Big mouthful of Pepsi. Although I nearly picked up my calamine lotion. I've been putting all over the hives and drunk that instead. So I'm going to put the lid on that so I don't accidentally drink a bottle of calamine lotion. Chamomile? Calamine. I always call it chamomile lotion, but it's not, it's calamine. I bought a cheap one from Sainsbury's because I'm poor. Right, so Gecko Racer, that's the view he's got. That's his target. He has been closer. He is lapping quite well in those mid-43s. But it just seems that Dan has got the slight edge in consistency, keeping it below those mid-43s. And going faster still as the fuel starts to drop off in the BM. We've got quite a long train here. This is the train from Slugsy. There's Deering. There's Cal Hal, who's really close to the back of Deering. Is he going to try and make a little move on the Race Asylum driver when the opportunity presents? I mean, you can see here, he got a much better run out of the final corner, and he is closing fast into turn one, into the braking zone. He has to brake obviously that little bit earlier to not go ploughing into the back of that copper and black Mercedes-Benz ahead. But the GTR now, really, really good run. As I said here, you get a great slipstream here, but there's only one line, so very difficult to pull out and make the move, particularly because you can see here, he's ready to make the move, but into this chicane they go. Very different lines through there, but he's looking, I think, to try and get a sort of slingshot exit, which didn't really work. So yeah, big D defence, which is something that James will need if Ost is really serious about seeing him at the back. Oh yeah, he went there. It's not orange, man, it's copper. It's copper. Oh, look at this. This could be... Calhal, you bore me, man. Make the move. Make the move. Blue Racer's out of this little battle. Now he's back in 7th. But while these guys are fighting, does this give Blue Racer that little bit of a chance to close? At the moment, you're doing a brilliant job holding Carhal off. He is getting a little bit of help, of course, on that run down towards the chicane from his teammate, although not so much anymore. Both very wide on that final or penultimate corner. But seemingly got away with it. Now, the problem, of course, Deering's going to have here is Slugsy does open up a gap, and he has seemed to have opened it out 1.3 seconds. He's not going to get that little bit of a tug after this section here up the hill. And everyone loves a little tug up the hill. Ginger and black. Yeah, Duracell Barry. Yeah, I can see it now. Race Asylum sponsored by Duracell. They just keep going and going and going. Right, so Carl didn't get such a great run that time to make that move on Deering. So Deering, although he's and you can see he's revving the absolute nuts out of that GTR. Lucky he's not paying for the engine, isn't it? Because that's some massive bouncing off the top of the rev limiter. So it is a fuel stop coming for Carl. What are we, lap 17 of 25? Shall we have a good looky see at everyone's fuel situation? I think we shall. Let's do that, shall we? Right, so we're 29 minutes into the race, lap 17 thus far. So there is Evo. Now 5-6 seconds clear. He's managing that pace quite well. He's gone 43.0. Come on, Evo. Give us a 42.9. We know you can do it. You can do it. Or can he? We'll find out. Dan FN, he'll go to the end. Strange then that, did he forget to put fuel in? Or is it just that GTR absolutely drinks the hell out of it? So Car Hal either uses fuel like he's not paying for it, which is of course he's not, or he just forgot to fuel in the pit stop. So he's going to have to come in, and that is going to give Deering and Blue and Bob's your uncle and Nick a little boost, because they should breeze on through. Kazza as well probably will get through. Maybe even his teammate Slide Rules. Race leader, of course, is Evo. There's Dan still trying to do something. Kind of fly the flag for AHR in second. Gecko not able to close on Dan, but he has got a 9.2 second lead over Slugsy. 4 Brits in the top 4, because Brits are the best. Car Hal, we know he's going to pit, and it's going to be devastating for AHR, because that's going to leave Dan as the only AHR driver in the top 7. So a bit of a devastating, but bear in mind they've got 7 drivers each in this lobby. That's a little bit devastating. Of course, James was off like a whippet early doors, but then made the mistake, came in a lap too early, put on the soft compound tyres, went all the way around again, and I think this is where the mistake was made when he came in a lap early. But I think in repairing that mistake, he's kind of exacerbated it and made it a lot worse. Because he's still down in 14th. Because he came straight in again, changed the tyres back onto mediums, then came in again and changed it back onto softs. When I think he would have been better served just staying out for a bit on those softs and knowing that he's got to do another lap on medium tyres later on. And he could have at any stage come in. And I think that extra pit stop straight afterwards, the extra 2 pit stops essentially, because he's cost himself so much more time. I think he would have been better off staying out on those softs for a bit and then just coming in and changing out the mediums. One less extra stop for him. And at the moment he wouldn't be last, he would be much further up the field. So Car Hal into the pits. That is everyone through. Slide Rules through. Sat Nav is through. Orford with his penalty. Looks like he's going to come through as well. So Car Hal dropping down to 13th position maybe. He's coming out now. Where's Orford? I think he's ahead. He is ahead of his teammate Orford. But he's got that 3-second penalty. Now, we know half a second costs you a second. I don't think 3 seconds is going to cost you 6, but it's certainly going to cost him 4 or 5. And that's the gap to Orford. So he may be losing that position. James, unfortunately, just too far back to make any capitalisation. Capitalisation, look at me. Big word for a Friday night. I love it. He's not going to be able to capitalise on that in any way at the moment. Right, what's going on in the chat? I missed the password. Deering is going backwards. I probably did, actually. I was looking at some other things. Right. He's actually, you're right, he is going backwards. We'll have a look on this lap where that mistake was. He's back in 6th. He's behind Blue Racer. Blue Racer pretty quick that last lap, 43.6. That's front runner pace these guys chucking in. So the top 6 really all chucking in that kind of super duper pace. During that last lap, it did a 44.8. I think Blue just a bit of significant more pace. It's just allowed him to get ahead. Can he close the Slugsy? 1.6 seconds to his teammate Slugsy as the light starts to fade here in New York. Hey, I'm walking here. New York. I do love the adaptive weather. Anyone that's also got Forza, there are a couple of things I really like about Forza. The adaptive weather isn't one of them. It's fucking dog shit. The weather just doesn't work as well on Forza as it does on GT7. The graphics aren't as good either. But there are a few things I do really like. I'm not going to talk about it here. There'll be a video on Black Flag Racing TV at some point next week once I finish editing it, of my comparisons between the two games and why I like some parts of Forza and what I think GT should adopt from the Forza model. Of course, there is going to be a big update coming in lieu of Forza's release. It didn't surprise me to hear that there was a big update coming now. Forza's been released. Hopefully it's stuff that we actually want though, and not a load of shitty old cars and some useless tracks. Anyway, so Evo, he's maintained that gap at 6 seconds. Really, really good at race pace management from him. He hasn't gone off like a whippet. He's already got the fastest lap. He hasn't gone off like a whippet trying to beat it. Although at some stage I do want a 42.9 out of him. And he's only got a few more laps to do it. And if he doesn't do it, I'm going to tell. I don't know who I'm going to tell, but I'm going to tell. And he's not going to like it. But no, he's great race pace management to keep it 6 seconds between him and Dan. Dan, I think, has resigned himself to the fact he's going to be second. He has kept Gecko Racer at bay for this entire race and been very, very solid. Both Evo and Dan have seen their teammates disappear. Their teammates who were in and among them, Nick in second and James in third, fall by the wayside, and they've allowed their consistency to keep them in the running. Slugsy, he got past, he's ahead of Blue Racer. He's got just under a second. How many races are there in this? There are 2 races, Philip. This is race number 1, 25 laps here. Then everyone's going to go for a little wee-wee or poo-poo and a smoky and a drinky and all that. Then they're going to come back and they're going to do 23 laps at Spa, 24-hour. A Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. And it's nice to see that I have managed to balls up 2 languages today. Right, Evo still leads. It's still 6 seconds. Dan is still second. Let's go and have a look at James at the back. Now, James has got essentially 4 laps to rescue something. His teammate Spoorford is 8.5 seconds up the road. He has been closing on him significantly, but he's had an awful lot of work to do after that huge mistake at the end of lap 7, and then the mind melt to come in lap after lap after lap and keep changing tyres, when actually the best bet would have been to have stayed out on the softs and come in later for the mediums. Even though I suggested that you'd have to be a window licker to do that. But I suppose if you've made that mistake, then that's what you've got to do. Carhal was running really well until he realised he had no fuel left. He's got 5.7 seconds to make up on his teammate Satnav. He's 4.7 ahead of his other teammates. Satnav is in what I like to call that kind of perfect no man's land. The gap in front and behind is almost identical. You're not catching the guy in front, you're not losing out to the guy behind, you kind of settle into your rhythm. Can get a little bit lonely, especially as the light fades and your breaking points might change. I hope you haven't got shadows for breaking points, because if you have, they're all going to change and go somewhere else. So you think by now muscle memory would be the order of the day. Slide rules is 6 seconds up the road. Nice big gap to Kaza, who has a 1 second penalty. That'll mean that slide rules is maybe only 11 seconds behind, although slide rules seems to have lost some time there on Kaza. Nick up to 8th. It just goes to show the quality of the pace here, is that he made his mistake way back on lap 2, I think it was, and he's only managed to fight his way up to 8th. Now he's got 2.5 seconds to Bob's Your Uncle. He has been closing. Now his last lap, we'll find out what his last lap was, because he's just finishing one. There we go. That last lap for him, that was a 43.8. Bob's Your Uncle did a 43.6. So actually, Bob's Your Uncle a little bit quicker at the moment. So if Nick wants to move up another position, he's got some work to do. He's going to have to find some tenths, man. Some tenths. Deering lost out to Blue. Just done, actually. He's forced his lap of the He's forced his lap of the race. Making up words as they go along with a 43.8. Just second behind Blue. And these three running quite well together, actually. Deering, Blue and Slugsy. All separated by less than a couple of seconds. Big gap to the top 3. The top 3 are, I think, barring an absolute massive cock up or disconnection or anything along those lines. The top three are as they are. That's Gecko Racer running in third, sandwiching the AHR flag bearer for this race, Dan FN, who's still 6 seconds behind Evo, 4.2 ahead of Gecko. As we come towards the end of lap 23 of 25 here at the Glen, the Watkins Glen. Boom, there we go. A couple of laps remaining. There is your race leader. If we go into the car with him, we need that button. We go into the car and we look through the back there. You can't see a thing. There is no cars. I'm trying to see if by the time we get to the bus stop, they're just there in the distance. That is Dan just coming up the hill now as Evo dives into that chicane. I don't know why they call it a bus stop chicane, because I thought the bus stop chicane was the one at the Spa, but I think it's becoming a standard word for any chicane, isn't it now, the bus stop? Have you ever tried to stop a bus in a chicane? You normally tips over if you're too late. Yeah, I think you're right there, Rock. I think it's one of those kind of it's like a self-perpetuating thing, isn't it? Is that you make a mistake early on, and then to rectify that mistake, you kind of over-push the car, and then actually you end up making more mistakes in that kind of extra push. And I think, and it's easy enough to do, especially if you know that it's a mistake you didn't really need to make. You know, it was driver error. It wasn't, someone smacked you up the arse and ploughed you into a wall. You just got too brave with the loud pedal at slightly the wrong time. The car stepped out from underneath you, and you've given yourself too much work to do. And yeah, so it's that kind of drive angry scenario, isn't it? Inner Loop, yeah, that's it. It's called the Inner Loop. I think I was mistaking it for the one at Daytona. Yeah. The funny thing is I was reading up some facts about Watkins Glen here for no other reason than I am a really, really boring man with literally nothing better to do. That actually they added that because so many people died around what was just previously called the Loop. So they put that in to slow the cars down because people kept dying. Sometimes that's the way for it. We were talking about that earlier, is that, if you've got that one lap pace and you are amazingly quick, sometimes that can be a hindrance if you can't find consistency and not get penalties. But we are on the final lap of the race, and this is Evo from Race Asylum, who has absolutely dominated. He took pole, literally. Not been in the lead of this race at any stage other than through the pit cycle, but absolutely dominated from start to finish, and it shows a great presence of mind to be able to maintain that, and and make sure that you keep hitting those same markers all the way around. And consistency has been very, very good for Evo. Absolutely great consistency. As he rounds the last bend here to complete lap 25. And here he goes. Evo brings it home for Race Asylum. Boom Shankar. That's first blood to the Race Asylum team. Good showing there for AHR from Dan. Apex Hunter Racing's last great hope across the line. Gecko Racer brings home a massive gaggle of Race Asylum drivers. That's him. Here comes Slugsy. Not going like a Slugsy at all. He's moving quite quickly. Blue Racer just behind him. Here he comes across the line. There's Deering. Bob's your uncle. Closely followed by Nick. Nick can really close that gap right at the end there. Down to half a second. 9 seconds back. Here comes Kaza across the line. And then we've got a bit of a gap here. Slide rules. Comes round that final corner in that GTR. He will be 10th place. Who's the daddy? I'm the daddy. I don't know why I'm slapping my hands like that. That was a bit weird. Satnav AI. Or Satnav Owl. I don't know which one it is. Home in 11th. There is Carhal in 12th. Sporford is 13th, or will be when he comes round this final bend in the BMW. James did close that gap, 3.3 seconds he closed in the end there. But it all went horribly, horribly wrong very, very early. Yeah, listen, we've already seen what pace he's got. We never did see that one for 42.9 from anyone. So screw you, mofos. There we have it. That's the first race done. That was good, wasn't it? Did you like it? I liked it. I liked it a lot. I've lost my control. There it is. Turn that off. We don't need that anymore. We do want to have a quick little look at the proper classified index. There you have it. There is the official results. Evo with a 1:43.0 fastest lap as well from Dan FN. Gecko Racer from Slugsy. Talking of Slugsy, I used to have a Racings now. And to make it more streamlined, I took its shell off. It turned out it just made it more sluggish. Blue Racer in 5th. Deering in 6th. Bob's Your Uncle was 7th. Nick recovered somewhat to 8th position. Kazza and Slide Rule rounded out that top 10 at 9th and 10th place. Satnav and Carhal in 11th and 12th. And Sporford and James, or James, finishing in 13th and 14th, respectively. There we go. Short toilet break for all. And we will return. I am going to grab another drink because I've drunk all my drink. I'll be back very, very shortly. Talk amongst yourselves, folks. I have returned. Also, if I put my mic near my mouth, I have returned. What a race that was. That was pretty darn masterclass from Evo. And if you didn't watch it, where the bloody hell were you? And why are you not watching it immediately? Right, listen, a little bit of housekeeping. Just below this video is a little button that says like. Bloody click it, then click the share button. And while we're having a little break, because they're qualifying in about 8 minutes for this race here at Spa, then go quickly jump over to the Black Flag Racing TV YouTube channel, click subscribe and click like on everything there, and tell the world you think we are brilliant, even if you think, what the hell is this fool waffling bollocks for? He hasn't got a clue what he's doing, which is actually the truth. I do not have a clue. So this is the opportunity. This is where James and Nick have to prove themselves. After Nick made that mistake really early on, and had to fight his way back to 8th, and James couldn't count to 8, and then I had a bit of a brain fart. Don't know what he was thinking, so I just found a bit of bacon. Didn't randomly find it on the floor. My plate is still on my desk, and there was a bit of random bacon on it. I thought I'm going to eat that because I had bacon for dinner. Yeah, there we go. Something you didn't really need to know. So open another Pepsi, I think I will. I'm not drinking at the moment. I'm on antibiotics. It's boring. Very, very boring. Which is another reason why I wasn't going to that 16-year-old's birthday party. One, because it's 16-year-olds, and you can easily outdrink them. And two, because it's boring enough without a drink, let alone being surrounded by pissed up 16-year-olds and not being able to get pissed and off at. Right, Spa, 102 years old, Spa. One of the most recognisable, iconic racing circuits in the whole goddamn world. You'd be very hard pressed to find anybody that hasn't heard of Spa. The cars they're using for these, let's go through the settings actually for this is the Race Asylum choice for this two-way little race series thingy. We're using the Spa 24-hour layout. What is the difference between the Spa 24-hour layout and the normal layout, Urban Pirate? I hear you cry. Well, I'll tell you, it's the pit exit. That is it. The pit exit, instead of being just after La Source, which it is in the normal GP circuit, it is just up past Eau Rouge and Radion in the Kemmel Straight. Which makes sense for safety reasons. When you're coming out of the pits on cold tyres, you don't want to try to be getting through Eau Rouge and Radion on cold tyres, because the whole idea is you want to go through there as quickly as possible and use your downforce to get you through there flat out. We're going to do 23 laps in any 2016 GR2 car. Balance of power, balance of performance, or whatever it is with brake balance, will be allowed. And we will be racing with at early dawn, so it will be dark and it'll get light, because that's what happens. Time 18 on the time multiplier, so it's going to absolutely whiz through the day very, very quickly. Times 6 on tyre wear, times 4 on time fuel depletion, so expect to see 2 or 3 stops in this 23 lap race. They're going to burn through those tyres here around this beautiful racetrack. 10 litres per second refill rate, so nice and quick. Get that fuel in. All tyres are available. Mandatory, though, are Racing Soft and mediums. They have to use both compounds at some stage. There is no specification on how long they have to be used for, so luckily James doesn't have to count this time. And there we go. That's pretty much all you need to know. It'll be cloudy 03, so it won't be nice and bright and sunny and soft and sticky. It will be a little bit cloudy. The grip reduction reel, etc., brake balance allowed, and the usual default. No, fuel, actually, the fuel will be different. They start with a full tank of fuel, probably just as well, because at times 4 they're going to be pritting. They're going to be pritting relatively early. I would have thought. Now, in terms of qualifying, it's 10 minutes allowed for qualifying here, so a little bit more time to set your hot lap. These GR2 cars very, very quick. Downforce very, very good in them as well. Be good to see I think for the most part we're going to see the GT Nismos, which for me is probably the best car. Although it looks like we've got quite a few of the NSX out there. One that I can't drive. Well, some would say I can't drive at all, but I can't drive that Honda NSX. And what a lot of people say to me about the NSX is one of those sort of cars where it's really difficult to feather the throttle in it. It's either fully on or fully off for the most part. But if you can tame the beast, it's a wonderful car. But you really have to be able to tame it. And that's just not a car I've ever been able to drive. To be fair, I don't drive that much anyway. But yeah, so I think the majority of people are going to be driving the Nismo by the looks of it. With who we got in that NSX, it looks like we've got Blue Racer, Bob's Your Uncle's in it, Slugsy, Deering, Kazza, Slide Rules is in that Nismo. And a couple in the RCF. That's interesting. Sporford and Satnav. Now, those two, remember rightly, they were in the GTR, were they not? So they've gone for the RCF GT500. Again, that's another car that I genuinely, I don't think I've driven it at all. That's one thing actually that stands out for me for GT7. I've got 600 cars, and I can honestly tell you I've driven 10% of them, if that. Tops. I am trying to get, like, just, you know, when I buy a car now, I'm trying to make a point of whipping some laps out in it, just for the sake of whipping some laps out. We're about a minute from qualifying. It'll be 10 minutes of that glorious qualifying. Now, will Evo make it 2 from 2? That'll be interesting if he can do that. We know that Nick and James have got something to prove. They're not going to want to allow Evo to get 2 from 2. And they've certainly got something to prove after the shenanigans of Watkins Glen. But we know there's some other quick drivers out there. We know that you've got, I forgot his name, Gecko. We know that Gecko Racer was capable of chucking in some great pace. We know that Dan is really, really quick. We know there's some guys out there that can really put in some super hot laps. And it's a very different racetrack, Spa, from Watkins Glen. You've got really good opportunities with the slipstream for overtaking. Lots of overtaking spots. Particularly up the Kemmel Straight, you've got Lecombe. You can make some moves through there. Definitely some moves possible through Pouillon, Stavelot, and then, of course, Blanchimont. And then, if the smart money, of course, is on that bus stop chicane. So, shall we have a look at some qualifying? I think we shall. Hang on, press the wrong button. There we go. Look at that. Race 2 and all that. I did it proper, mummy. Alright, while we're waiting for the out laps, should we ever talk about what's going on this weekend? Because it's a bloody busy weekend, it is. For sure. Right, so, we are starting in darkness, of course, because it's dawn, but the time will move on very, very quickly. Right, so tomorrow, from lunchtime, essentially, it is the inaugural IRO, that's the International Racing Organisation race, which will be the Bollocks 6 hours at Daytona. 14 teams made it in, and there was a lot of teams. I think 8 teams. I think in total there was 22 teams entered. 14 teams made it through. They will be racing out over 6 hours tomorrow around Daytona. You can catch all the action on the IRO YouTube channel. DJ Brohawk will be on stint 1. Jager, the dulcet tones of Jager for stint 2, and then I'm going to talk absolute rubbish for the last 2 hours there. Following that, it's the fourth round from GT Alphas, which you'll find on Black Flag Racing TV. And then Sunday evening, it's the return of the GT Fusion Gran Turismo World Team Championships, and the big top pro lobby number 1 with the big boys in. That'll be live on Black Flag Racing TV on Sunday evening. From 6 p.m. I always get confused because everything they do is in European time, and I don't operate in European time because I'm British and I don't give a toss. Right, so out laps done. Slugsy is going to be the lucky on board lappy guy. So here we go. On to the power you go. You head down. After that bus stop chicane, to that left hand side, into the source, breaking down to first gear, get that rotation before you flick up to second, get on the power, and then flat out you go into Eau Rouge and Radion, sticking to that right hand side, hugging that pit wall before you flick it left, and then let the car drift round right hand side, and then back left again as you head up the Kemmel Straight. Full power here, lots of slipstream. This is where you can really benefit from getting tucked under the rear wing of the car behind. Hard on the brakes into turn 7, 8 and 9 for Lecombe, which is the right, left, right combo before you head down the hill into Bruxelles. And that's a second gear corner that seems to go on forever. This big 180 switchback where you kind of hug that inside line before you can get on the power into turn 11, which is a little flick, little lift, little flick to the left hand side. Then you're heading down again, back on the power, up 4th, 5th, looking for that 50 metre board. That's where you get on the on the downshifter and just drag your car around turn 12 Puyon, heading down to Campus, which is 13, 14. And this is a really tricky right-left combo where you just have to be patient, particularly on the power out of turn 14. Down to Stavolo, get on those brakes for turn 15. You've got that wonderful little house you'll just see on the left-hand side. I would love to live in there. As you power through the Courbe Porfrère, which I probably pronounced very wrong, into Blanchimont. Interesting fact, Blanchimont and La Source are the only two corners that still survive from the original first ever connotation of Spa. Every other corner is new. Road to have always been there. And into the bus stop chicane we go, which is turns 19 and turns 20. Be careful with the back end coming out of that chicane before you're on the power, and across the line for a 206.8 for Slugsy. Nick puts himself on Polo with a 206.3. Good solid times already. So Evo demonstrating he's still got the pace here at Spa. He with a 206.7, just 0.3 of a second slower than Nick. That's the front row lockout from RA at the moment. Front 3 lockout from RA. Front 4 lockout. Front 6 lockout. It's a massive lockout from RA. Can we get RA in all top 7 positions? Where is Gecko Racer? He's currently in 13th, 214.6. He needs, if he wants to make it a top 7 lockout for Race Asylum, he needs to get within 2 minutes. Really, the 206s. 206s will get him into that top 7. Dan is the best of the AHRs with a 207.0. James, yet to set a time, is still on his outlap. Bob's your uncle, 207.9. Slide Rules with a 208.5. Satnav with a 209.7 in that Lexus RCF. Sporford, or Orford, or Spore, with a 212.3. Gecko Racer, we know, 214. Carl Howe with a 216.0. So some work for them to do. At the moment, though, 206.3. That's the fastest lap. That was set by Rai Nick. R.A. Nick. And if you're wondering, as I was earlier, what the E stands for, it's Esports Race Asylum, which I actually mean it's like they're top bollocks dudes. Yeah, I'm with you on that, Ray. I'm quite sure we'll see James and Dan breaking into that top 7. But it'd be good if Gecko can just get there, just for the time being, and we can have like a brief RA lockout for the top 7 spots early doors. Bob too, you reckon? I don't know a lot about these Apex Hunter racing guys. I do know that someone's just gone into the pits though. That's Nick into the pits to get some fresh rubber dubber dubber. As does Evo. Kaz is staying out, is he? No, he's getting some fresh rubber as well. No fuel, I assume. I think they're going to keep the car light. They just want to get some fresh rubber on and see if they can shave off some seconds there. And as if by magic, Bob proves he does have the pace and puts in a 207.5. Found 4/10 on that last lap. That's a significant improvement. 0.4 of a second. Indeed. significant improvement. So Nick back out, Evo's out, Kazza will be coming out shortly. Who's going to be the first for Apex Hunter to break up that top 6 domination for Race Asylum as it stands? Which is Nick, Evo, Kazza, Slugsy, Deering, then Blue Racer. Dan FN is the closest so far. He's on an outlap at the moment. James. So much to prove for James. We know that James is quick. He demonstrated how quick he was in that first race. Just got it a little. I say a little bit wrong. That was a monumental cock up of epic proportions, and not just the first, not just miscounting by a lap, but to then keep coming in afterwards, kind of threw it a little bit. But it is what it is, and yeah. We move swiftly on. And it's funny, actually, because I've just been reminded now. Obviously, I've known the guys at Race Asylum for a while. And the first time I ever came across Race Asylum was when I was with, when I first started out on Grand Tours. I was with another group who I will not name, run by an absolute big, massive tit. Long story short, he pissed a load of people off and we all started Black Flag and whatever. But it was a team versus team event. And the reason I'm reminded of it is that we lost a member of our racing community last week. Went by the name of Happy Hammer. Some of you may have raced with him. He also went by another name, Speed Racer or something like that. But Steve was with us for some time. And I know he raced with the Medway Racing League guys, which I know a lot of URA guys know. And Happy Hammer that day actually won the race for the team we were with. And it just kind of reminded me that you look after your mental health, lads, right? Yeah. It's down there. You see on the banner there, there's that little top hat on the brain. That's the Proper Blokes Club. It was a charity started by a friend of mine during lockdown. And it's basically, there's walks all over London where lads can just get together, have a little wander around their little part of London and just talk about anything that matters. Just, take the edge off. So yeah, look, if you're struggling, have a little chat, have a little natter with your mates. People do care, people do listen. Anyway, that's the sad bit out of the way. Nick is still on pole. 206.3 for him still. Evo is still locking out that front row. And James, as we called it, has broken up the RA party. Put himself on row 2 with that 206.7. Pushing Kazza down to 4th place. That's Kazza still there. And Kazza, I'm sorry, my friend, you can't park that there, son. You can't park that there. Yeah, you're facing the wrong direction, mate. Slugsy, that's not good. I don't think Kazza's going to get another opportunity for this final lap. So, if you're going quick now, then keep going. If you're already down, I'd probably bail out at this stage because you've got a lot to do. Slugsy is up. Slugsy could be pushing themselves up onto the second row. Possibly if they can find a bit more time, up onto that front row. But it looks at the moment like this. It looks Nick from Evo, from James from Kazza. From Slugsy, Deering, a Blue Racer, Dan, Bob's your uncle, Satnav, Bob's your uncle's got a penalty, he's not going to improve on that. Carhal, Slide Rules, Orford, and a Gecko Racer could not find that time. He's on a hot lap now, though. Is he going to slip in to that top 4, top 5? Nice and early doors. That was Slugsy, didn't improve, puts himself 5th. Who has finished? Nick is on. Is he on a hot lap or is he done? I think he's done. Nick is done. 206.3 was his fastest lap. James does improve, puts himself on that front row with a 206.6. Blue Racer dropping down to row 2 with a 206.6 also. Evo holds on into 4th. Kazza in 5th. He's back in the pits now after facing in the wrong direction. Slugsy in 6th, Deering in 7th, and Dan in 8th, Bob in 9th, Gecko in 10th. So he does improve, but not enough to put himself into the upper echelons. Yeah, there was a. You're right, Ray. That was a really good lap from Nick and James. And to be fair, they demonstrated in Watkins Glen they had the pace. Neither had a great race at Watkins Glen, so this is their opportunity to prove they've got it. And let's be fair, it's going to be a really close race because the thing is you can't. If you're tucked under the wing of one of these GR2 cars coming up the Kemmel Straight, there's nothing they can do to stop you. There is literally nothing they can do. You can bob and weave to a certain extent, I suppose. But once you've got that run on the car ahead, and especially if you can get a good early or good late break into Lecombe, then it's looking really, really good for all of that top six. You're right, Roxzilla. I'm looking at the top 10 there, and just based on the pace in Watkins Glen, you can see that anyone in that top 10 could potentially be banging on the door. Right, let's make it official, shall we? The fastest man out there was Nick. He's joined in that front row by James. Blue Racer and Evo on row 2. Kazza and Slugsy on row 3. Slugsy the homeless snail. Deering and Dan on row 4. Row 5 is Bob's your uncle and Gecko Racer. Satnav and Carhal on row 6. And row 7 is Slide Rules and Sporford. Two of those are RCFs in that in 11th and 14th. And good splattering of GTRs and NSX among the top 8 or 9. So, 2 GTRs in the front row, but the NSX is certainly putting in a bit of a shift there. So, short break for everyone to get themselves adjusted in their chair and have a little swing in their drink booze. We'll bring that back up for whatever reason because it cuts off the name. I do need to make 2 lobby covers like that, one for qualifying and one for not. But that would involve me actually bothering to do it. The problem is I then have to program it into the Steam Deck, the Stream Deck, and that's a whole nother matter. Before we start the race, I want to talk about my oldest son, who's an absolute big, massive fucking melt. Now, he works in the City of London for a big investment bank in cybersecurity. And for 3 weeks, I've been asking him for a particular graphics cable that I want. I'm not going to buy one from Amazon. He literally works in a company with a room full of this stuff, right? I texted him this morning and said, please don't forget, I want it for the weekend. No problem, I'll get it. This is what my idiot 24-year-old son does. He puts it in his pocket. He goes to leave. And someone says, have you got a graphic interface cable for this? He went, yeah, I've got one here in my pocket. Gives it to the guy, then leaves. Doesn't go and get another one. Doesn't send the guy down to the IT department. No, he takes the one out of his pocket that's for me and then just comes home. So, guess he's ordering one on Amazon later because my son's an idiot. Anyway, I'm just slagging off my children. Great qualifying all round. That was actually great qualifying. But I imagine we're going to see quite a few places change. Unlike Watkins Glen, which is quite a difficult racetrack to overtake, there is lots of opportunities at Spa to make these moves. There's a couple of really good spots for Slipstream as well. You've obviously got the long run of Kemmel Straight up to Lecombe, and then you've got that massive run down to around Blanchimont down to the bus stop chicane. And of course, within Sector 2, there's 1 or 2 spots where a little mistake here or there, you could be finding someone else finding their way in. Yeah, it's quality that's finished, and we are now moving on to the race very shortly. Why are we waiting so long for the race to start? And why am I whispering? Yeah, that's another matter. Have you clicked the like button yet? Have you shared this video? Why not? Do it. We are about to start very, very shortly. So all the drivers are getting ready. James and Nick in particular are going to want to get off like big, massive whippets up on the racetrack. Brum, brum, brum. So just waiting for Ray to click the little button that says start, and then we can get down to 23 laps of a fast, frantic frenetic, crazy racing here at Spa. Time to do it. What do we want? Race car noises. When do we want them? Meow. Sorry about that. I've actually got that on a soundboard. I just forgot to put it on this one. So I thought I'd do it for you. Right, rolling start yet again, which of course is good because it means we're not going to get crashing into the source. In fact, some cars aren't even going to have to take the source because you start. That's the other thing about the 24-hour track. It starts a little bit further round the corner, which means less chance of smashing into each other into turn one. Love it. Right, Nick is away. James is off after him and into Eau Rouge and Radion you go. You do not want to be at the front end of a big, long, essentially DRS train here. And you can see already there is James already having a look up the side of Nick. Makes that move and takes the lead of the race. Can Nick do anything into the top? He can't. So Nick already losing out one position to James as James takes the lead of the race here from the outset. Somebody's been practicing. Well done there from James. Absolutely blistering start from him to get things going. So James leads from Nick. Blue Racer in third. Evo in fourth. Kaza in fifth. Sixth is Deering. Slugsy in seventh. So at the moment it's just James out in the lead being chased down by a load of RA drivers. It's almost like a big police chase. Then you've got Dan nestled just there in between Slugsy and Gecko Racer, who's made up an extra position. Bolger Uncle in 10th, Satnav in 11th. Sporford, I don't even know if this is the right way to say his name, but I'm doing it anyway, in 12th. Slide Rules in 13th, and Carhal is in 15th position. But James already, he's off like he's stolen something from the pound shop, and he's being chased through the high street by the orange and black security guards. 1.5 seconds. He is absolutely on it. Somebody likes this racetrack. Is Nick able to close that gap and close it fast? He does not want to see the back of that car disappearing. He wants to be tucked nicely under the back of that rear wing. Now, in terms of how did everyone start? Well, you can see why James has disappeared. He started on those soft compound tyres. He's going to make a little bit of a gap. Nick has opted to start on the mediums. Blue Racer on those mediums. Evo on the mediums. Kaza and Deering and Slugsy. So all of the RA guys in the top 7 all starting on the medium compound tyres. James has gone for a start on those softs. Can he be trusted to go and change medium tyres at the correct time? Who knows? Dan also on those mediums, as is Gecko. And Bob's your uncle and Satnav on those softs. Orford on the softs. Slide Rules on the softs and Carhal on those mediums. So a lot of drivers opting to start on the harder of the two mandatory compounds. Get them done and dusted and out of the way. Now, it doesn't specify how long you need to run those tyres for. So are they going to run them literally for a lap or two and then get them changed out? Or is there some sort of game plan to run them for some time and make it a one-stop race? It is quite hard tyre wear here. So you would imagine it's probably going to be a two-stopper potentially if you're planning on running more soft compound than you are hard medium compound. Of course, the hard compounds are available, but you would need to be some kind of very, very special person. You would need to have fallen down some stairs on many occasions to consider that to be a worthy option. You just don't get the grip or the torque or any of that palaver here. So James, 1.9 seconds clear. Is a little bit warped by the fact that he's on those soft compound tyres. So he's going to have that little bit more traction out of every corner. He's going to have that little bit more grip through those faster corners. That's going to gain him time throughout the racetrack. But of course, later on, he'll have cars behind him running on the softs while he is running on medium compounds. It'd be interesting to see what strategy these guys employ. James's job at the moment is purely gap. And Carhal has disconnected. So disappointing for the AHR team. They've lost a driver early on. Now the question is, I can't go on to him to see whether it was ripping the internet out the wall kind of disconnection or a genuine disconnection. I'm not suggesting that he rage quit by any stretch of the imagination, but the question always kind of pops into your mind when, you know, you never see the guy in first disconnecting in such a way. But there we go. Oh, you do sometimes, but usually that's announced by a big fuck when it happens. Right, so James is 2.5 seconds clear for the Apex Hunter Racing team, trying to make a nice, big, juicy gap over Nick. These two with so much to prove after the shenanigans of Watkins Glen. 1.2 seconds to Evo's already. We're starting to see these cars eke out little gaps between each other. The last thing you want to do is have be giving up slipstream into up the Kemmel Straight. You can see there Dan is already making some inroads into the Race Asylum boys. He's got past Kaza. He is now trying to close down on the back of Deering. Although I'm sure Kaza has got something to say about that. He's not going to be giving that position up lightly. And there is a little bit of lag in this particular lobby. And I don't know why, because it's the same host and the same people. So do bear with. I'm sure they'll sort out soon. So whatever problem we have will be fixed. Very wide line that Kaza was taking through there. And it's allowed Dan just to open up a little bit. And he's already closing the gap on what happened to Nick. What happened to Nick? Just seen that. So something went horribly wrong for Nick, because he's dropping down that order. So, Nick certainly not got it all his own way. He's dropping down. He's lost a few places. So that's Evo now picking up the mantle, but that's given a 4.9 second advantage to James out in front. Nick's not having the greatest of days. And I'll tell you what, leading into IRO tomorrow, whatever little bugs have got into the system, he's going to need to get them eked out before his 2-hour stint tomorrow in the Bolux 6-hour at Daytona. So down to 5th goes Nick. Deering up to 4th. Blue Racer up to 3rd. He's now got Dan FM. He's going to be crawling all FM. It's Dan FM. The late nights talkings of Dan FM. Nice. He's got some. He's going to have him chasing him down, and when things are not going well, the last thing you want is a guy on a charge coming up behind you in a menacing way. And I don't mean the kind of way where you get taken out for dinner first. So Dan is under a little bit of pressure from Kaza as they come into Lecum. He does weather that storm, but he's got to try, if he wants to close now. Nick gets past Deering. Makes a great move on him and up the Kemmel Straight. So difficult to keep track of what's going on with these guys. Right, but there is James, 5.6 seconds clear. Setting out his stall early on to 2.068 for him. Evo desperately wants to try and close that gap for Race Asylum. 1.2 seconds to Blue Racer. 2.3 back to Nick. Deering is just 0.8 of a second behind Nick at the moment, having just lost that place. But he's going to be under pressure from Dan. Or is he? Because here's Kaza having a look at Dan. Looks round the outside. Makes something that goes a little bit too wide. And Dan's going to survive. He did have a little go. We'll have another little look at that, because that was a really, really good opportunity. And you can see here, gets a great run on him. And he's round the outside. But under braking, just not quite enough. And he just has to back out and allow Dan to retake that position comfortably. But a good little opportunity there initially for Kaza as they head down now to Blanchimont. We're going to see a really good run now. Who is close to each other as we run up the hill, because we've got a little bit of a race going on there. Evo's too far back. Blue Racer, Nick's got a bit of a gap now. We've got a potential here, and that is Kaza does get that move done finally on Dan into that bus stop chicane. So he gets the run on him. You can see here, he gets the run down into the chicane. Under braking, all kinds of wrong. Dan gets that all kinds of wrong. And that allows Kaza through and up into 5th position. Although Dan's now retaken that coming out of La Source. Can we see? Oh, can we? But here we go. Kaza now, he's going to have a run on him going up the hill. Is this where he gets that job done and gets the place back? Pulls out, you can see there, he's got him to his left-hand side. And we don't need to look at the weather radar to know it's not going to rain. But I can tell you what, it done half look cloudy. Was that a little touch between those two? No love lost here. These guys are battling. absolutely duking it out. And this is going to and it's gone horribly wrong. You can't park that there. And yeah, that's gone wrong for Dan. Just pushing so hard. And we can see here, let's go on board with Dan. On board with Dan here. Let's do it from this angle. You can see he's round the outside, and it looks like actually he may have been clipped just at the back. There's nothing. There was no malice intended there, but it looked that side by side racing. It could have been a bit of net code, but that has cost him loads and loads of time. So similar to Nick losing out in that last race. Now Dan, who's looking Dan racy, drops down to 13th place. Which gives James, James now is the only in the top 8. He's the only Apex Hunter racing driver, bringing it to Race Asylum at the moment in that top 8. What's going on in the chat? Are we all excited? That was very exciting, wasn't it? Yeah, it is causing. It did look like there was a little bit of a clippage there. A little bit of clippage. But we can see how quickly the soft tyres are going off. That's the thing, Baz. There is a bit of lag in this lobby. And I don't know if it's because of the disconnection when we lost... forgot his name. Satnav. Was it Satnav? Yeah, when we lost Satnav. There's been a little bit of lag since then. And this is something I talk about it a lot. And I moan about it a lot. For all the great things GT7 has, their lobbies are fucking awful, man. I think that's one area they really need to really focus on. Particularly if you've played Forza and you see the quality of the lobbies on Forza. And the quality of the penalty system, actually. The penalty system is very, very good on Forza. I think they need to. I think that's where they need to kind of, if they're going to go toe to toe with Forza for the best simcade racing game, then that's exactly what they need to do is fix the lobbies. But at the moment, the only person that doesn't need fixing is this man here, James. It looks like he's going to get probably he'll either come at the end of lap 7. He's certainly got another lap in those tyres before he has to change them out. But it will be. Probably maybe even 3-stop race for these guys. The medium tyre, let's bring up the tyres and fuel for all to see. So there we go. You can see James there. Just under half a tank of fuel. His tyres looking meh. Carhow, that was one, sorry. Not Satnav's in 6th. Carhow, thanks for that. So what a professional commentator would do is a professional commentator would have a pen and a piece of paper. And ironically, I've got a pen and a piece of paper right there, which has got yesterday's takeaway order written on it. That would write stuff like this down, but I'm not professional. Sometimes I put an effort in and I write things down, and most of the time I just wing it. I find it's more fun that way. The best nights out aren't the ones you plan; they're the ones you wing. Talking of wing, look at the wing on the back of that car. It was going incredibly fast in the hands of James. 206.8, fastest lap of the race for him. He's going nowhere near that. All he did 206 on lap 3. But he's dropped right off that pace. I was just looking there. It said he did a 1:44, which I knew couldn't be correct. But he's dropped out. He's dropped a couple of seconds down, which is fine at the moment. He's managing that pace now, around 6 seconds, particularly after we saw the demise of the monster that is Nick early on. Evo is absolutely on fire today. You're right. I mean, he dominated at Watkins Glen, and I mean he is doing similar pace in those low 208s, high 207s on the medium compound tyres that James is currently doing on the softs. Now there is an element of tyre saving now on James's part. I think he will pit at the end of this lap. He is just looking after them to make sure that they do last the 7 laps. Oh, no, it's lap 7, and James is going to pit again. At least this time he doesn't have to come in again on lap 8 and then again on lap 9. But no, you're right. They are absolutely cooked. And I'm wondering whether there's any benefit to running mediums more than there is to running the softs. Because if we're looking at the pace on the mediums there's still plenty of tyre remaining. And Evo's comfortably doing what James is doing on the softs. Deering as well, comfortably doing the same kind of times, as is Kazza, as is Nick. I mean, Nick's dropping into those 207s. He had a bad lap there with a 2:17.6. But he's doing faster lap times on those mediums than James is doing on the softs. So actually, there is some benefit, I think, to running the mediums more in this race than the softs and doing just one stint on those soft compounds. So James coming back out on the soft tyres, will he be? Who knows? There's Deering in the pits. He's pitting really, really early on those medium compound tyres. That's an incredibly early stop. Not quite sure what the strategy is there. And Gecko as well. So unless they're planning on doing a 2-stint on the soft compound tyres, I suppose, yeah, I mean, it's lap 8. Another 6 laps takes us to lap 20, lap 14. I don't know, you know. I don't. I think they're pitting a little bit early. I think the pace these guys are doing on those mediums, in those 208s, very similar to what the guys on the softs are doing. I actually think staying out longer on the mediums, running them until the fuel runs out, is the best strategy, because the soft compound tyres go off so quickly, and after a couple of hot blistering laps, you've got to drop off the pace a little bit to save the rubber. Hello, Henry. Yeah, I mean, Evo is on fire today. Somebody had their Weetabix this morning. Evo definitely has been munching his Weetabix. He's probably had a couple of cans of Red Bull. He is absolutely on fire today. 9.9 seconds is the gap to Kazza at the moment. 10 seconds now, the gap to Kazza. He does, of course, need to stop. I think the pit window, for me, the pit window for these medium tyres is somewhere around lap 11. Lap 10, lap 11, maybe. And then you can, I mean, me personally, I think if you can run to lap, if you can push these medium tyres out to lap 12, I don't know. See, because the softs are mandatory, it's not necessarily beneficial to do that. But he's coming in lap 8, so maybe two stints of 8 laps and then a 6 on the softs, maybe. We'll see where is everyone else on. So Kazza, he's coming in now. Nick, what's he going to do? Is he coming in or is he staying out? He is staying out. He's not just out, he's out. And he's staying on those medium tyres, so he is running longer on those mediums. Now, if you get 6 out of the softs and you're doing a 2-stopper on the or one, or you're changing for softs twice, that's 12 laps. So you only need to get to lap 11 to make it a soft finish. Right, so Kazza comes, stayed out. Nick stayed out. James on those medium tyres now. He does have to run those mediums, but we know that those mediums can easily do 11 laps. Easily do 11 laps. Particularly in his hands, I think. So here comes Evo now. He's on the soft compound tyres. Where is he coming out in relation to James? Right, so he comes out there in 5th. He is 21 seconds behind Kazza. Blue Racer has stopped. So Evo dropping in behind Blue Racer, who stopped earlier. So he's actually on his first hot lap after stopping. So he's undercut his way in between Evo and James. He's on the soft compound tyres. James on those mediums. Now, we need to see what kind of pace that he's chucking out. Because until he's on his hot lap, we won't know what his medium tyre pace is. But yeah, like I said, I've got no doubt it's a 2-stop race. Very high tyre wear. Reasonably high fuel depletion as well. Right, Kazza, Nick, they stayed out. Nick's got 12 seconds on James, so he won't stay ahead of him in the pit stop window. But he's doing what I thought you should do, which is run those mediums to the end of either the tyre or the fuel's life. Particularly if you can lap in those low 208s, high 207s as he's been doing. Then it's going to be a case of how many laps you do on the softs. Now, if you want to run soft, you're going to need to do more than I think they're capable of. I think it's a soft, medium, or medium, soft. Oh, sorry, a medium, soft, medium kind of scenario. So Kazza in. Kazza could have stayed out. He has got loads and loads and loads of rubber left on those tyres. Now, Kazza, for me, if you've got that much rubber left on your tyres, then stay out, because his times weren't all that shabby. He was quite capable of doing those mid to high 208s. Stay out on those mediums for a couple more laps, and then you can really push the softs. Interesting choice. So James does regain the lead of this race. This time, though, he leads from Blue Racer, 4.4 seconds. His last lap was a 2:08.4. Now, if you compare that to his last lap on the softs before the pit, that was a 2:08.3. So he's a tenth slower for his first hot lap on the mediums than he was on the soft compound tyres. Is he going to go purple, though? That's the question. Blue Racer on the softs, 2:06, 2:06 and 2:09. Evo still waiting for his first hot lap to see what his pace is like. I'm fully expecting to see some purple sectors from him. Slugsy, 2:07 lows on the soft compounds. Deering, 2:09 on the soft compounds. A not a great lap from him on those softs. Bob's your uncle. Is he indeed? 2:07.6. Good pace from him. We could potentially close on the back of Deering. In fact, at this pace, he'll be closing on him relatively quickly. Kazza, 3 second. Brutal penalty. Absolutely brutal. And here is, there's 3 racetracks on GT where the penalty line is an absolute fuckery. It's here, and it's at Interlagos and at Le Mans. You lose so much time. 3 second penalty here, where that penalty line is, easily 5.5, 6 seconds lost. Easily. Right, that's when Nick comes back out. Nick back out on those soft compound tyres. He's behind Kazza. He's got Gecko Racer right up behind him, though. These two are going to push each other along, but they'll breeze past Kazza there, serving that penalty up into 7th and 8th place. Kazza down to 9th. Dan is down in 10th. It all went horribly wrong for Dan. It could have been lag, could have been a little bit of a little touch. You're going to get him a trophy. To be fair, he's racing so well, he deserves a reach around. Not from me, though. Satnav in 11th. Slide Rules is in 12th. 13th is Spofford. We unfortunately lost one of the I forgot they're called, Apex Racing driver. Apex, yeah, the Apex drivers. To a disconnection early on. Right, the gap's already coming down. It's 3.8 now between James and Blue. He's Blue labada. And Evo absolutely on it like a car bonnet. He is so goddamn quick. I genuinely don't want to blink in case I miss him. Now, team, for me, this is a team effort. For all the will in the world, I'm sure Blue will want to take the win for himself. Get out of the way, man. Give Evo that bit of slipstream down Blanchimont, and then get the flock out of the way and let him start chasing down James to get his 2 for 2. And, of course, a 2 for 2, of course, for Race Asylum. And he does actually, you can see Blue Racer actually does move out of the way there. World Pit Lane Penalty Champion. It's a real honour. So James 3.7. This is where Evo's charge begins. James still has that fastest lap, like 2:06.8. He set that on lap 2 of this race. We're on lap 11 of 23. We're almost at the halfway point of this race. In fact, when they come into the top of the Kemmel Straight in a minute, it will be the midway point. 3.5 seconds is Evo's target. I want to go on board with him because that's his target there, heading down to La Source, into the braking zone, so he can see his target. It's always a much easier race. You obviously you've got the timer on that left hand side, and unless you're in VR, then you've got fucking no information because Sony don't think you need it when you're in VR. But anyway, moving swiftly on. So you've got that time target there. even if you can't see the car. But it gives you that little bit more oomph, that little bit more impetus if you can see the car you're chasing, not just the time you're chasing. If you can see the car in front of you, you can see it getting closer. It really helps with giving you that additional pace. Evo with another 207 low. Can he drop into the 206s on? He's going to need to, I think, on these soft compound tyres. James comfortably at the moment in the 208s. But in his mirror, it won't be long before he's seeing a whole lot of Evo and a whole lot of blue. Blue already, 1.7 seconds. I mean, that shows the absolute gulf in pace between these two around this racetrack. Blue obviously in a different kind of pit cycle. He pit a couple of laps earlier than Evo did, which is why his tyres are so much more worn. I think you're right. I think you're right, Jack. I think the one thing James has got here, he's got that 2 second deficit, and I think Evo, he needs to catch him quickly, because the soft tyres stop giving you performance very, very quickly. Blue is going to have to pit, probably not this lap, he'll probably pit next lap. Actually, he might pit this lap, to be fair. Slugsy, maybe another lap before he does. Deering, he's got a couple of laps left in his tyres. Bob's your uncle, Gecko, they've all got a bit of time left. Right, so Evo, there's the gap, 1.7 seconds. This charge down is absolutely epic. Epic charge down. That last lap for James, 208.698. Very consistent. Evo, 207.1 yet again. 1.7 seconds. Ideally, I think this is where he wanted to be under the wing, because I think one more lap at this kind of pace, then these soft compound tyres are going to start to be a little bit less compliant, a little bit less agreeable, a little bit more likely to throw you into a wall, snapping your legs off and exploding you into a fireball, so they name a corner after you one day. But he's going super quick. James still has the fastest lap though with that 206.8. And to be fair, I think that's going to be a difficult lap to beat, because Evo has been absolutely phenomenal today. And if he is struggling to get down to a 206.8, then who knows? It could be that Evo has a little bit left in the tank. He knows he's catching James anyway, and he's just saving something for a little bit later. But if I was James, I'd be afraid. I'd be very afraid, because Evo has been a demon today. We will have another look through the field, but I do want to keep with this battle as this chase down begins. Let's go into chase cam actually and watch how he's chasing him down, because it's going to get spicy. Yeah, the dirty area is going to be a problem. And so here we go. So you can see there. Sorry, bear with me. I do apologise for that. They didn't take the keys out with them. Right, so this is that chase down. You can see now the gap is down. He's already taken a second out of him on that lap. Very, very close to the back. And I think Evo's going to find himself being able to make that move on the Kemmel Straight, just as Baz has said. He's going to have a bit of dirty air coming round the source. Good exit out of the source, and this could be good night Vienna for James. He started on the soft compound tyres and disappeared off up the road. And then Nick, of course, fell by the wayside, which gave him a little bit of a breather. But he didn't really factor in the Evo equation, which is that Evo is driving like a demon today. Absolute consistent, absolute apex personified. He hasn't missed an apex all day. Not quite close enough, I don't think, to make a move. I don't think, I know, he's not quite close enough. And we can see that James has found a little bit more pace there. And the closer that car gets to the back of the Apex Hunter Racing Team car, the harder it's going to be for him to find a way to pull away. Evo, that's what his tyres are looking like at the moment. He's still got some life in them, but they are going to start to drop off very soon if he doesn't get this move done. and quickly. Next real opportunity, I think, unless of course there is a mistake in James, which I don't think. I mean, to be fair, James, other than the absolute clusterfuck of a cock up on the tyres at Watkins Glen, didn't really put a foot wrong race wise. It was just that mess around with the tyres that cost him in Watkins Glen. But at the moment, you can just see the gap getting smaller, the gap getting smaller. James is finding all the right entry and exit points, but he just hasn't got the grip. And this is where we'll see now. You can see that James is closed. He's getting closed on. Through the penalty line they go. Closing that gap. Closing more and more. Blanchimont, here we go. Is he going to make a brave move around Blanchimont? Is he going to do it under braking? You can see there James holding off. Will not let him through. Oh, little jink. Can he make the move here through the bus stop chicane? A little bit more grip on the tyres. Side by side. Evo gets the move done at the end of Blanchimont into the bus stop chicane. And now he's got an opportunity to pull away. He is going to have James in his slipstream. It was a good save from James, actually. Very good save. A little bit of a hello and the back of Evo from James, but he's got a really good run on him. Now, he might be on the medium compound tyres here, but he has got that run on him up the hill. And he could retake first place here. Bear in mind that Evo would have taken quite a bit out of his tyres being in that dirty air and chasing down as he did. Is he able to pull away? It looks to me that he's just holding off, but the slipstream is strong. It's like the force, very strong. He's holding that inside line. He is not letting James get up the inside of him into Lacombe. Holds that line. James again looking very, very racy though on those medium compound tyres. It is absolutely going off. I'm scared to go anywhere else at the moment. These guys absolutely racing like demons. We will, however, I think we've got to do it. I think we'll do it because it looks like Evo might just be pulling away a little bit. He is pulling away a touch. Right, so let's have a look down the field. There is Deering. Oh, down here, boy. He's in third position. He's 12.4 seconds back, but in third. He's going to pit at the end of this lap. Nick, he's got a couple more laps left in him. He's in fourth. He's running well, actually, Nick. And now has the fastest lap of the race with that 2:06.7 he did on lap 13. We're on lap 15 of 23. If you're just joining us, this is Race Asylum versus Apex Hunter Racing. And where the fuck have you been? And why have you only just arrived? How dare you? How very dare you? Apologise to everyone for being late. Thank you very much. Kazar, 1.9 seconds behind Nick. He's got a couple of... he's got a few laps left. Gecko, he'll be pitting at the end of this lap. Satnav, I think he'll probably come in at the end of this lap. He doesn't really need fuel, but he certainly does need tyres. He's under a lot of pressure from Racing Snailsy, who's not only looking quick, he's going to make the move on Satnav, which he has done. He's got nice fresh tyres as well, and he's just pit. Run to the end, though, I don't know. He's not got enough tyre to run to the end. Satnav will go in. Blue Racer, he's got new fresh tyres. He goes through as well on Satnav slide rules. A couple of laps for him. Bob's your uncle. He's got nice, fresh, soft tyres. He'll move up a couple. Dan, it's great pace from Dan at 2:08s consistently. But when it goes wrong, and it's so hard. When you've got drivers of this quality throughout the field, when you make them, when something goes wrong, it's so difficult then to get anything out of your race. And there's Orford back in 13th place with tyres. And let's face it, if those tyres, the rubber on those tyres was made into condoms, then somebody would be getting pregnant because there's nothing left. Absolutely nothing left. Right, there's your race leader. He has now opened up a bit of a gap, has Evo, but he's going to start thinking about a pit stop. James, however, will also be thinking about a pit stop. Not for tyres, though, because it's fuel, but he will obviously change his tyres. His tyres are holding out quite well. But it's going to be the battle of the pits. Now, the benefit of having more fuel for Evo is that 10 litres a second, although it's quick, it's still less fuel you've got to put in. And if you time it right, you can really make time in the pits here. And having more fuel on board, I mean, it's not huge amounts. He's just in the red. whereas James is a lot further down that order. And it's a shame we don't see the actual amount of literage. We do when they go in the pits, of course, but we can't see it just now. I think they're both going to come in this lap. Yeah, I can't see Evo having enough fuel stuff. Well, you don't know how brave he is. He might feel brave enough to do it, but no, they're both coming in. There is Evo, there is James. Evo with slightly more fuel. Now, they've both run the mandatory compounds. 7 laps on the softs. There is enough laps remaining to finish the race on the soft compound tyres. There is Nick coming in as well, top 3. Kaza. There he is, Slugsy. The Racing Snail heading down towards the bus stop chicane. Is he going to gain any places over these guys? 23 seconds, the gap to Kaza. 42 to Evo in the lead. Right, we can see the fuel going up. Evo up to 80%. James to 73%. So James trying to save himself a little bit of time in the pit stop, putting less fuel on board. Do I think they've overfueled a little bit? I don't think so. I think they're all right. I think they've both erred on the side of caution. I think they probably could have made it to the end with a bit less, but I think they both know they're going to have a bit of a race on their hands. Both on soft compound tyres, and now it is mono and mono. 1 second separates RA, Race Asylum's Evo, the winner, of course, on at Watkins Glen, and vying now for a 2 from 2 for him. James in second position and already closing that gap, really bringing it for the AHR team. Slugsy in third, that's where he came out of the pits. Blue Racer, he made it past those guys before they came out of the pits, should I say. Blue Racer comes out, he's in fourth. Nick just behind him in fifth. There is Deering, he's running in sixth. Kaza in seventh. Bob's your uncle is the next highest runner for Apex in eighth. Gecko, he likes to be bugs, I'm told. He is running in ninth, ahead of Dan FN. He's got up to 10th place. Potentially 2.6 seconds to Gecko. He's got some pace, this boy. Everyone's on the softs now. It's going to be... It is, yeah, absolutely right. It is, you know, what was an endurance race early on is now just a full-on pedal to the metal, balls to the floor, whack them out on the table and get a little measuring tape out. And we'll see. We'll get out the slide rules, shall we? And see who's got the biggest gazungas as we race to the end. I'll tell you what I have liked, and I do like about races that are this close, is when you have these races and nobody gets lapped. It's brilliant. I like it. I like it a lot. It doesn't happen a lot when I'm racing. I always get lapped. Even in a 2-lap race. No, that's not true. Right, so Evo's not got it all his own way now. And of course, with the long time dilation, we've gone through almost an entire day of racing. We've emulated an entire day of racing here at Spa. It was dark when we started qualifying. It's going to be dark when we finish this race. It's going to be night time. Are you scared? Evo leads the way by just 0.7 of a second. James is absolutely hunting him down, trying to find a way to get closer. And look, he's got the pace now. We need another lap from these guys before we know what their relative pace is in this last sprint session to the end. Slugsy is 8.9 back. Can't see these guys challenging James in that top three. Blue and Nick, they've got a little battle going. Actually, there's a three-way battle going on there. Sorry, a two-way battle going on there. You've got Nick just up behind Slugsy, behind Blue, and Blue 4 seconds behind Slugsy. So that we know Nick's got some pace. It is a nail biter, you're absolutely right. I don't know if Nick's... I mean, he's 14 seconds behind the leader. He is the fastest man on the racetrack. Not significantly fast enough, I think, to take the win here. But top three is not out of the question for Nick at the moment. Running in fifth, if he can get his way past Blue and start to close on the back at 4.5 seconds onto Slugsy, it could be a little RA personal battle for top three, you know. Evo is still holding James at bay. And soon we're not going to be able to see the cars, so we might as well just go inside them. I find I like to go inside them at night time. will. Shall we have a full rundown from the back? In 13th, that's Sporford. 20 seconds back from slide rules. He's going to find it difficult to close that up. Slide rules. And this is the thing, when it gets dark and you can't see other cars around you, it can get lonely out there. Satnav, 26 seconds behind Dan. Dan has got a couple of targets ahead. He's got Bob's Runkle just ahead, just a second ahead of him. And ahead of him is Gecko Racer. Now, Will, looking at Dan's pace, is 7.04, 8.1 for Dan, for Bob. So he's certainly going to be catching Bob. Will Bob let him slide on through and chase off the Gecko Racer and get a little bit of slipstream for himself? A little bit of lag there on Gecko as he went round the source. Oh, it all goes horribly wrong. Bob, I'm sorry, mate, but you can't park that there, son. Shall we watch it again in stereo? Here he goes. He comes down and he, into the braking zone into the source. And he just gets so brave with that loud pedal on the way out. You see here, he just, and then catches that curb. And whee! Bang. Sorry, mate. There we go. So Bob drops down to 10th. Dan ahead. Now he's got the target ahead. 2.6 seconds to Gecko. Gecko last lap 2:07.8. Last lap for Dan was a 2:08.4. Bit of work for him to do. Kazza 2.6 up the road. We've got Deering is 2.8. I think Kazza's not 2.6. It's 2.1. Has he slowed up somehow? Has he made a mistake? He can see the tail lights of Deering, who's all over the back of Blue at the moment, and Blue's going to have to think about. He's not only thinking about can he catch Nick. He's got to worry about Deering, the jolly Irishman. I don't know if he's jolly. He might be a prick. Yeah, he probably is jolly though, because most Irish people are. Chasing down the back of him at the moment. 4.2 to Racing Snail, who's holding firm in third. Can Nick make that jump at the moment? I would suggest not. Right. This is lap 19, or the end of lap 19, into lap 20. 4 laps remain here at Spa. James is doing everything in his power, and he didn't just do a 143. That's absolute tosh. Come on, sort it out. A 207.196, a 207.168. They were the last 2 laps for James. Evo with a 206.9. He is determined not to let James get close to the back of him, and he knows that this is where he is most vulnerable, heading up the Kemmel Straight. And again, he's going to be vulnerable around Blanchimont. And look, they're the lights. You can see them in his mirror. You can see them there. We're going to, that's the view in the mirror there at the top of the screen. That is what he can see in his mirror, chasing him down. He would like, he likes to see them that far away. That's the distance he wants to see for the rest of the race. Ideally, he wants to see them gone completely, but he'll be pleased if they're that far away, because he knows there isn't an easy move for James to make. No other battles anywhere on this racetrack at the moment. Looking down, you've got Slugsy. I suppose you've got the Nick chasing down Slugsy potential for a couple of laps. You've certainly got Blue and Kaz, and you've got Blue and Nick as well, maybe. Gecko and Dan. You've got Deering and Dan. Although Dan, it looks like Dan's got past Deering to make that move. Bob's your uncle. He's in 10th, 1.8 seconds behind. So the only real battle at the minute is this here. And the gap is 1.2. Evo just opening up that pace now. He's held something in reserve, clearly, for this race. And just decided that now is the time to start pushing. And pushing that a little bit more. He wants to keep James out of his slipstream wherever possible. You do not want, at this late stage of the race, to be losing first place. You want to kind of make sure that you've got that little gap, and the guy behind is pushing his tyres harder. He's pushing his fuel harder. He's making his car work that little bit more, taking that little bit more out of the vehicle. Just making it so that when you get to the final lap, lap 23, that you've still got that little bit extra tyre, you've still got that little bit extra fuel, and the guy behind's got nothing left to chase you down with. That's the scenario you want to create. And at the moment, it looks like Evo is doing just that. He is eking out the performance out of that car. He's looked after his tyres so much better. You can see there he's got much better tyre wear. You can see that he's got more fuel. James is absolutely taking everything out of the car. And no, nothing. Let's take nothing away from James. He has been phenomenal all day, despite the mistake of Watkins Glen. In terms of race pace, he's been absolutely phenomenal. But something got into Evo today, whether he had his Weetabix this morning or he had some good news, I don't know. But he is absolutely on fire. This is world-class pace, world-class driving from Race Asylum's Evo 24. 1.1 seconds is the gap. We're on lap 21 here at Spa. If you're just joining us, I know why you are late. Utterly ridiculous. This is Race Asylum versus Apex Hunter Racing. Take two. And we had a race at Watkins Glen, 45 minutes, 25 laps at Watkins Glen. Won by this man here. We're looking at the current race leader and the winner of Watkins Glen. That was Evo. We saw James make an absolute monumental cock-up with tyres. We're supposed to do 8 laps on the mediums. We're in on lap 7. Changed out the tyres for the softs. Then rather than run softs and then put on mediums later, inexplicably opted to do 1 lap on softs, go back in and do 1 lap on mediums, go back in again and do and finish the race on softs, costing himself so much time. We saw Nick looking really racy, then losing it and having to fight his way through the field. So guys that we would have expected to be out in front haven't really been there. James is redeeming himself this time, of course, but he just can't find an answer to the pace of Evo. As we head into the penultimate lap, Evo now got that gap out to 2 seconds. No more slipstream for James up the Kemmel Straight. And I think this is the part of the race now where if you're not in that 5, 6, 7, 8, 10th range at this stage, where are you going to find the pace from? Because there's just nothing left. It's crazy. It's looking really good for Evo. 1.7 seconds from James. I think James now just has to resign himself that he's driven out of his skin today, but Evo has just been that little bit better. There's Slugsy running in 3rd. He's comfortably there. He just needs to bring that car home. The gap to Blue Race was 6.3 seconds. I said Nick was going to close him down, didn't I? There he is, right there, all over the back of Blue. Blue has got a lot of work to keep him behind. Team orders out the window now. These two are going to race to the end. And Nick with that fastest lap, it's 6.7. Had he not had a mistake earlier on, I think we would have seen him up there with Evo and James, particularly with the pace that he's been chucking out. So here we go. This is a little race here for 4th place. Blue just opening up the gap a little bit as they go around Pouillon, heading down now into the final sector of essentially the penultimate lap. So essentially it is the penultimate lap. And who's that? Is that some way back? Actually is Orford at the moment. He is just starting lap 22. He's 1 minute 45 behind the leaders, 35 behind his teammate. Slide rules is 3.1 seconds up the road. Bob Drunkle 35 seconds. 2.1 to Deering. He's all over the back of Dan as well. Dan needs to be pretty careful because Deering's having a little look at him. Looking at Deering's tyres looking good. Dan not quite so good. Gecko Race is pretty safe. He's 5 seconds behind Kaza. He is 1.4 behind Nick. This could be an interesting fight for 4th actually, because the 2 cars ahead are duking it out for 4th place as they start the final lap of the race with left Blue Racer from Nick from Chasm. We're on board with Chasm at the moment. Let's go chase cam on Chasm. We get a good look at the battle ahead. They're going to be racing up the Kemmel Straight, looking for a way through. Now, Nick is close to the back of Blue Racer. A good exit out of Radion, and Blue could be in trouble. But if Kaza gets a good exit as well, so could Nick. He's getting double slipstream. Here we go. Here is the run up to Le Courbe for the final time. Evo still leads from James. We'll go back to that battle very shortly. We'll see if either of these guys can nick a place in the final few corners. It stays blue, Nick, Kazza. Nothing changes there. Let's go to Evo's 1.4 seconds clear. This is James with a half-second penalty. His fight, if there was any fight left in him in this final lap, it's just been beaten out of him with that half-second penalty. He's obviously picked that up, just pushing a little bit too hard onto some track, onto some track limits or something. So there we go. So Evo, all he's got to do is keep it clean, and the race belongs to him. And this is going to be the sight he'll love to see. You look over his rear wing like that. There's the lights of Evo, and in a minute he's going to see those lights just disappear off into the distance. Look, there we go, and you can just see them fading to nothing as Evo, for the final time around Blanchimont, heading down to that bus stop chicane, over to that left-hand side, looks for that 100-metre board, on the brakes, gets it turned in, down to first gear for that rotation, round onto the start-finish straight for the final time. There is your double race winner this evening. Evo, absolute stonking race from him. James comes home in second. Now we've got this battle here, and it is still raging on. That's Kazza, that's Blue Racer, that's Nick. Slugsy will come home in third. We'll see him cross the line there. But look at this battle here into the bus stop chicane. Who gets it wrong? Blue gets it wrong. Nick up into fourth. Kazza up into fifth. Blue loses out 2 places at the death and finishes in 6th position. Look at this for a finish from these. I don't often do a replay when people are crossing the line. But you can see here he gets the run down, goes for the move, but so late on the brakes. And it just allows, Nick's already getting through, of course. But so wrong. Is what it is, unfortunately, is what it is. When you're going to break that late, it will go wrong for you. Gecko in 7th, Dan in 8th, Deering in 9th, 10th is Bob's your uncle. Slide rules. It was absolute masterclass from Evo. Slide rules comes round to the bus stop chicane. That's the one we want that view there. And across the line in 11th. 12th is for Satnav. And at some point in the next, it will make it before the time runs out, 41 seconds, will be Sporford. But there is the man of the hour, the man of the moment, the man of the day. Absolute fire from Evo. I think that was a resounding result from Race Asylum today. Really devastating display of consistency from everybody. But this guy gets all of the accolades. Hold him aloft your shoulders like a monkey of joy. And say, dance for me, Evo, because today you are the double back-to-back team versus team winner. You have dominated AHR in the same way that I was going to say something really rude, and I'm not going to go down that route. Let's make it official, shall we? There's your official results. It is Evo in that GTR Nismo. Didn't get a fastest lap of the race. That went to Nick. James in second. The Racing Snail was in third. Nick in fourth. Kazza in fifth place. Blue Racer in sixth. Gecko Racer in seventh. Dan, Fuck Nugget, or whatever the FN stands for, I don't know, in eighth place. Deering was in ninth. Bob's your uncle. Fanny's your aunt. He was in 10th. Slide Rules was in 11th. Satnav in 12th. Sporford finished in 13th. Classified last is Carhal, who was a dumph because he got disconnected, which is why it got so dark. Yeah. Well, to be fair, it was times like a lot. So there we have it. We're done. We're finished. That went very, very quickly, didn't it, guys? Very, very quickly. Enjoyed that. That was good fun. Evo with a masterclass. Race Asylum overall with a masterclass. But some of the racing, absolutely phenomenal. Don't forget to click the like and the share button so everybody knows to come and have a look at it. If you've got 5 minutes, pop over to Black Flag Racing TV. Give me a like and a share as well. Thank you very much. You get to hear my dulcet tones again tomorrow on the IRO channel for stint 3 of the Bolex Daytona 6 hour. That'll be from about 4 o'clock, I think, if I've got my timings right. And then later on for GT Alphas from 8 p.m. for the GT Alpha's GT3 World Championship. And then again, if you really want to listen to me again this weekend, and you're a fool if you do, Sunday evening for the professional lobby for the Next Level GT Fusion Team World Championships, hotting up round number 5. Thank you very much for joining me. Nothing else left to say except I've been Urban Pirate. This has been Race Asylum versus Apex Hunter Racing, and it's been emotional.
It's Friday night, and the drinks are on my mind. The decision sets in, one that will churn your skin. The love is right, let them have their time. And I have this notion, let's keep these wheels in motion. In motion.